Are you new to modding Nerf blasters? Or have you been modding Nerf blasters for a while but you want to get into producing some of these more high-end mods that you've seen about but don't particularly have the funds to be able to do so? In this next series of videos, I'm going to give you some tips and some guidance on how to go about modding on a budget. Okay, so one of the mantras throughout this series of videos is going to be plan and commit. Plan the mod that you want to do from beginning to end and then commit to it. The only way to produce high-level mods on a budget is to do it over a long period of time, buying small amounts of materials at a time and installing them and just being very, very patient. The first thing that you're going to need to do, and this is something that will probably appeal more to the newer modders than to those who have been doing it for a while and are looking to step up their game on a budget, and that is choosing the right blaster as a platform for your build. The first issue to tackle is to do with the mechanics of the blaster. Essentially, you have two different blaster mechanics. You have your flywheels and you have your springer. Now, flywheelers and springers work very differently, and there are other mechanics. So you've got things like air-powered and stringers, which work with effectively an elastic band. Flywheelers are brilliant. They give you a great rate of fire. You don't have to go through the process of priming every shot, which is a great advantage on the field, especially in close quarters, where you're going to be wanting to shoot off a lot of foam in a very short space of time. However, they are not perfect. The first issue you will probably encounter with a flywheeler is to do with battery life. If all you've got with you is one flywheeler when you go to a war and your batteries run out and you haven't got a spare battery, then you're basically out of the game. You can't play because you've got no way of running your blaster. So, you need to bear in mind that there is going to be an additional cost with a flywheeler of having to invest in whatever battery source you decide you're going to run it off of. Another disadvantage of using flywheelers is spin-up time. Now, there are ways to overcome this by using high torque motors, or for example, having a system where the flywheels are permanently spinning. However, as a general rule, there is going to be a split-second pause between you pulling that rev trigger and being able to fire. And where you've got a system where the flywheels are constantly revving, you come back to the issue of batteries because you're going to use up an awful lot of power. If you're planning on being stealthy in your Nerf war, then flywheelers are definitely not for you. They are noisy, and once you have modded them to take more powerful motors and a bigger battery, they are even noisier. There is no way around it. If you want to be stealthy, don't choose flywheelers. In terms of springers, they are the complete opposite to flywheelers in that there's no need to worry about batteries. They are very stealthy. You can sneak up on someone and you haven't got it making the noise of the motors whirring round before you try and tag them with your darts. The main disadvantage to a springer is your rate of fire. If you're at a distance and you're picking people off, that's fine, but if you get into the middle of a firefight, especially if you've got a very heavy draw weight on your spring, it's going to slow you down, and you are far more likely to get hit with a barrage of foam before you manage to get very many shots off. The decision of flywheels or springs is a very personal one, and it's going to come down to what kind of games you play and your play style, and it's something that you are going to have to give really careful consideration to before you choose what kind of blaster you want to use as the platform for your mod. One of the other things that people quite frequently come up with is whether it is easier to mod a springer or a flywheel blaster. The simple answer is that if you're planning to do anything more ambitious than drop something into the blaster that somebody else has already produced, they are completely different skill sets. So it's an impossible call to make. What I would suggest is that rather than trying to work out which one is easier for you, is to choose which one is best for you and then develop the skill set to modify that kind of blaster. Once you've chosen the kind of blaster that you are going to modify, the next thing that you need to take into consideration in choosing which blaster you're going to modify is the method by which you get darts into it. Now, there are a few different options floating around for this, and I will try and take you through some of the main ones. The method that most people jump straight to when they think about loading darts in Nerf is the magazine-fed blasters. Magazine-fed blasters have fantastic advantages, very, very quick reloads, which is absolutely brilliant. Again, especially if you're in a close quarters firefight with a lot of other people. You know, you've got your magazine in there, you're firing away, you run out, you drop your magazine, you shove another one in, and you keep going. It's by far and away the fastest and most efficient way to reload if you are in that kind of a game. One of the problems with magazine-fed blasters is that once you have exhausted the magazine, you have to go through that process of removing the magazine and installing a new one. Now, it's only a short period of time, but it's a period of time within which you are completely vulnerable. And other methods of loading do find a way around that. And there are ways to modify your blasters so that you can top load them so you don't have to remove the magazine. And then you've got the Infinis, of course, but quite honestly, if you're watching this video, the Infinis is probably out of your budget. Another issue with magazine-fed blasters is that you are at some point going to have to make the decision on a tactical reload. Now, this is where your magazine is not empty. You've got maybe 3 or 4 darts left in your magazine, but you do not have enough darts to make your next run on the field. So therefore, you sacrifice those 3 or 4 darts in favour of a full magazine. And you then have a magazine which, quite honestly, you can't really use because you've only got 3 or 4 darts in it, but you've also got 3 or 4 darts that you can't use. One of the alternatives to the issues that arise with magazine-fed blasters is something with an internal magazine. Now, this is a quick 6 because I'm not aware of Nerf making a great deal of internal magazine blasters anymore, but it makes the point. It's reverse plunger, and you want to avoid reverse plungers. Now, the advantage to this system is that whilst you are running your game, you can have it primed with a dart ready to go and still be topping up your magazine. Another option is the front loader. Now, front loaders come in various different guises. You've got the kinds with the smart air restrictors, you've got the turret-fed blasters. You've also got single shots, but I can't imagine taking a single shot as my primary into a Nerf war. Here we have a strong arm, and this is not the best blaster to illustrate this point, but it is the blaster that I happened to lay my hands on before I started making this video. So, you're running around and you're shooting, and then you get 5 seconds between being attacked, and you can shove a couple more darts in the chamber and keep going. And it's absolutely brilliant for that. You can top your darts up as you go. And that really is the main advantage of a front-loading blaster. You can front-load, which means that you can be shooting and loading potentially at the same time. The disadvantage to turret-fed blasters is that most of them do not hold very many darts, which means that even though you can increase capacity to a certain level, you're at greater risk if you suddenly get set upon by a large number of people of running out of darts very quickly. Okay, so hopefully that's given you a little bit of food for thought when it comes to choosing what blaster you're going to modify. Go away, do some research. There are loads of brilliant videos about on YouTube on the advantages and disadvantages of different elements of Nerf when you're choosing what to go with. And in my next video, I will talk about how you go about buying your blasters.